Yes, ma'am. You can start now.
Okay, sure. Guys, last time I remember when we were doing root words, so we were starting to talk about, we talked about Kadi. I think we had to go forward from here. So I will start with Kani. Did we talk about Kani or we were yet to talk about Kani? From what I remember, I think Kadi and Kani we finished. Anyway, let's start from here. So Kani, as I mentioned earlier also, Kani means flesh or meat. So that's why it is related to the ideas of human beings. And whenever you're using these roots in a word, you're thinking about more and more human aspects of that particular word. So when we are using this word in carnival or in word like carnivore, the meaning is a little different. When you talk about carnival, we're talking about the festivity of that particular event, and there you're using it in that manner. But when you think about carnivore, over there you're using it literally as in the flesh meaning. So you're eating flesh, and that is what a carnivore is. So vor, as you must have come across in words like voracious, in words like omnivore, over there also this word will mean eating. So when you talk about voracious, eating is in the sense of reading a lot, in the sense of doing a particular activity a lot. So it's not necessary that if we're looking at a meaning of a root, it's going to be literally used everywhere. Same way, if you think of carnival, over there, you're not using it as flesh, you're using it as human aspect. You're thinking about how carnival stands for this idea of celebration, as humans love to celebrate, as humans love to do all of the, so carnival has no restrictions. That is the idea that we're coming across when you're looking at that particular usage of the word carni in carnival. Okay. And when you talk about incarnate, that is in flesh. So you say he's God incarnate. That means that this person is the deity in form of a human body or in form of human flesh. Now come to the next root, call, or the meaning of this particular root when you look at it is either it is coming together or it can be joining some things. So when you look at different words that will be using this particular root, we are looking at joined items like columns. The columns in a spreadsheet, when you look at, that is coming from this particular root as well. So you're looking at multiple cells joined together in a particular way, and that is what a column is. Same way when you look at collapse. So collapse over here, you're talking about the body falling or an item falling together. So that is why collapse falls into this category also of this particular root. And when you look at other words like collision, so collision happens when there are two forces. So the two forces will be coming together and then the collision happens. Same way we can look at collar because there are two things we are looking at. Okay. Same way you can think about collision also, because in collision also you're looking at two things coming together. Collar also you have two parts of it which you are considering mostly. But when you talk about something like stand collar or something like your Mandarin collar, in Mandarin collar you will see there are two divisions. But in very few cases like in mock neck and all, there you will be seeing that we are not mentioning it as a collar because you have just one band that is going across. Colloquial we talk about is coming together of the main language in with the language that is spoken. So there is a collision of both of those aspects of the language, and that's why colloquial comes from there. So I keep saying the word colloquial in the classes also. I keep saying do not use colloquial terms in your exam. This is where the word's root comes from. Colloquial means together or jointly, coming from having spoken that regularly, having spoken that in your culture. Now, this particular route, you might be aware of these words, I'm pretty sure. So ambulance is one word that is very common, but when you look at the root, that means something that is walking or moving. So the root ambul stands for walk or move. So when you talk about something like somna ambulist, you are thinking about two roots over there. Ambul being the second part of the word, you're looking at it becoming walking or moving. And somna, because it stands for sleeping, somna ambulant would be someone who is walking while they sleep. So the condition wherein a person walks while they're sleeping would be somna ambulant person or somna ambulance. Ambulance, same way when you think about the word ambulance, same way as you're using it in somna ambulance, you will be using it here. Here you're directly referring to a vehicle that is moving a patient from one place to another, typically from a house to the hospital or from the hospital to any other place. Ambulant is referring to anything or any object that is either moving or walking. So you say that a person is ambulant, that means they can walk around. Amble is usually referred to a slow-paced walking. Any other word that you would like to add to the ambule part?
Ambush.
Ambu?
Ambush. AMBUSH.
Ambush would be a little different because there you're not using the L form, no?
Yeah.
So ambush would be in another category. We might discuss it like later on. Okay. Now come to the next one.
Maybe ambulation.
Ambulation is correct. Ambulation would fall into that characteristic. Yeah. Come to the next word, circum. So when you think about circumference of a circle, for example, is one word where you have come across this root. So circumference is all around. So when you think about this usage in all different kinds of words, you would think about circumnavigate, circumscribe, circumspect, circumvent. So first one, when you're looking at circumnavigate, it means something that is sailing around one particular space. So circumnavigate will be basically around a country if you're going, or around a continent you're going, that will be circumnavigating that particular area. Same way, go for circumscribe. So circumscribe is when you make a circle usually, or you outline something. Somnambulant for ambule root word is correct. Yeah. That is the example that I gave when explaining this. So yeah.
Miss, can it be situation like situation,
In which case?
like in circumstances?
Yes. In circumstances, you're talking about coming around one particular stance. So when you think about the stance, that is one situation, right? Circumstances is referring to going around that particular situation. So you can't get out of it. That's why we say due to the circumstances, we have to do this, or etc. etc. Right? So you're correct. That is another word that comes from circum.
Oh,
And
meaning of circum can be situation.
No. There, because of the application, stance is the situation that you're talking about, right? So circum would be around only. So you're saying around the situation over there, or about the situation. Okay. So when you talk about circumscribing, if you're just placing a circle or like an oval also around any object, or like you just write something and then you make a mark, a round mark around it, that will be circumscribing that. Usually we refer to it as perfect circles drawn around something as well. So you would say the circumscribed part of this particular pamphlet or this particular poster is explaining this part of the idea. Then coming to circumspect, so circumspect goes for a root which is used in spectacles also. So when you talk about spectacle or spectacles, you're talking about looking at something. So when you think about the root circum, that means around, and spect means looking. So when together, that will be looking around, literally. Then coming to circumvent. So when you think about vent as a root, vent is basically giving space to something, or even a hole at time you will be thinking about. So that is why when you think about circumvent, you're talking about going around or going away from the restrictions. So evading the restrictions over there. So when you imagine, like in a circle, if there is a hole, then from there, everything would pass out, right? So here, this is the idea that you're thinking about when you think about the word circumvent. Any other word that you can think about when you think of circum? Circumference was one.
Circumcise.
Circumcise is also correct. So that also you're talking.
Circumstance.
Huh?
Circumstance.
Circum?
Circumstance.
Circumstance is correct. Someone said circumterrestrial also. That is correct as well. Circumambulate. Yeah, so that will be walking around something. Yeah. So circumambulate could also be a word.
Ma'am, circumcircle.
Circumcircle, yeah, that is also correct. Around a circle would be circumcircle.
Circumference.
Circumference, correct, correct.
Mama.
Okay, next one, cranio. So when you think about cranio, that stands for skull. This is one term that you would have come across if you did biology, or maybe otherwise also, who knows. So craniology, when you go to a hospital, you will see this department, craniology department. So over there, what they're doing is they are looking at the skull's characteristics, diseases related to skull, as well as different surgeries that will happen on the skull would be happening in this part of the hospital. Then when we think about cranium, cranium is the vertebrates, the animals, the vertebrates skull that you're talking about. And when you talk about cranial, it is basically anything related to the skull would be cranial. That's why pertaining to the skull. Any other word you want to add? A little hard to come across this particular root is, so it's okay if you can't think of any words right now, but you have to think of it after the class. Try to come up with 1 or 2 words.
The cranial nerves.
Cranial,
Miss Cranicle.
Nerves.
crani, cus,
Cranicle.
cranicle. Okay, that will be again like pertaining to the skull when you think of cranicle. Craniography is correct. So mapping whatever is happening in the skull, basically craniography that would be.
Craniopathy.
Craniopathy, what is the meaning?
Exactly the study of skull. Like,
Yeah. Now come to cycle. So cycle is one route that you come across every day when you think about bicycle or motorcycle. So here you're again talking about the idea of circle or a ring. So when you look at cycle, you're looking at 2 circles, which are the wheels basically. That's why we refer to it also as a bicycle. When you have 3 wheels, you'll call it a tricycle. And that is where the difference mainly comes in. Bi means 2, tri means 3. So if it has only 1 wheel, then it will be a monocycle. Bicycle, a vehicle with 2 wheels, cycle, a sequence that is repeated. And cyclone, when you think about cyclone also, that is also talking about circling winds or swirling winds. When you look at the formation of a cyclone, you see the winds are going like this. That is how the storm is shown. So that is why when you think about cyclone, you think of this particular route of circle or ring being used over there. Any other words that you can think of?
Recycle.
Recycle, correct. So basically, cyclometer also. Yeah, correct. Re means again, and cycle means ring or basically a sequence that is repeated. So you're looking at that being the reason it is used in recycle as well. Come to the next word, Juven. So Juven is a root that you're using in words like juvenile. So when you call someone juvenile, you're calling them childish. You're calling them not mature. So this is the idea that we think about when we say juvenile. What is that place called where they keep people who do crimes? The jail for juvenile.
Juvenile jail. It's literally called juvenile.
Juvenile home.
Juvenile. Okay,
Exactly.
okay. Juvie, like people refer to it in colloquial language as juvie also, like the short form. So here also we're using the same root, juven. Okay. And when you think about rejuvenate, however, here you're using it in a positive sense. So when you're using this particular root, sometimes you're looking at it being used negatively to indicate, okay, you are childish or you are not mature. Sometimes you are using it in the literal sense and referring to it as, okay, this person is underage or below the age of 14. And that's why you're calling them juvenile, youthful, or childish. And rejuvenate, when you're thinking about this particular root, again, the root which talks about repeating, rejuvenate. So you're thinking about being young again when you're thinking about rejuvenation. So you basically use it in terms of being refreshed when you use this in language though.
Ma'am, there is an interesting part that we got a football club known as Juventus. It actually means youth.
Yeah.
Juven.
Juven. Yeah, correct. So a lot of places, a lot of clubs, and a lot of brands also tend to use a lot of roots in their branding, at times in their product making also. So you will be surprised about how many words from roots are being taken and made into brand names or these kinds of things. Nice fact. Any other word you have for juven? Not so many words. Juvenescent is someone who's youthful. Correct. Next, any other words you want to add, or we can go to the next one? Okay, then. Let's go for kilo. Now, this is one easy one. I think you must be aware of it already. When you think about kilo, you're just referring to 1,000. So when you say kilobyte, you're saying 1,000 bytes. So this is a term that you will use in computers a lot. When you talk about kilometer, you're talking about 1,000 meters. So collection of 1,000 meter would be kilometer. Then kilograms would be 1,000 grams. This way, wherever you're using kilo, that particular meaning will come, like always come in. Any other words you want to add? Most of the measurement terms will fall in here. Anything else? Cool. Next, loose. So when you think about loose, one word that you would probably be thinking of is Lucifer. So Lucifer was the fallen angel that we think about when we think about the mythology. And that name that was given to him, Lucifer, was meant in a positive sense at that time. So when you're looking at the meaning of this particular root, it means light. And whenever it is being used, usually that word will come to mean something related to light. So when you think about elucidate, then you're thinking about something which is easy to explain by giving more details about it. So you throw light on it in a way when you think about elucidating a topic, or you talk about elucidating a concept. Then you're looking at lucid. Lucid means directly you're using loose and you're adding the root id. Here you're looking at giving off light, something which is easy to understand in sense of a concept, something which is giving off light in sense of an object. And translucent, as we have talked about trans is, can someone tell me what is the meaning of trans, the root? We discussed in the initial classes. Did you forget already? It's written here also.
Pass through.
Through. Yeah, correct. So when you think about trans, you're thinking about through. So transport also, when you think about, so it is across or through that you're thinking about. So that root would always mean across, or it will mean through. So when you're thinking about translucent, what it means is allowing light to pass through from the roots, both of these roots. Trans is through and loose is light. Any other word you want to add? Lucifer, we
Hallucinate.
already talked. Hallucinate, correct.
But hallucination का meaning में light कहाँ है मैम?
Illuminate.
Hallucination, when you think about, is light which is not there. So it is imagined light over there. Basically, you're imagining images and you're getting like hallucinated is that concept. So there are more roots in work in hallucinate. Hal root you need to know.
Fluctuation.
Fluctuation. Fluctuation. No. Fluctuate would be a different root.
Illuminate, ma'am.
Illuminate would be no. That will be different root.
Luminous.
That is lumo. Lumo is another
Lucky.
root for light. Lucky.
Okay. Yeah.
Not sure about that one. But I'll have to check. Possibly. Because the spelling is also same, no? L-U-C-K.
Also, it's related to something light, right? Lucky.
Yeah,
okay.
something which is positive. Yeah, so it's possible. I'll have to check this one.
Miss Luctus.
Which one?
Luctus. Luctus.
Luctus. What is the meaning for luctus? Is this a word you came across or is this a word you're thinking about?
No, there's a meaning
Tell me.
over it. Moaned. Moaning over something.
Could you repeat, please?
Miss Moan. Mourned. Moan.
Mourn over something. I don't think this would fall into the same category.
Ma'am,
Luminary.
Luminary, again, I mentioned lumi is a root for light, but that is different. Luminous, luminary, all of that will fall into light category only, but that is a different root for light. So you're correct.
Lucent.
ma'am, luck.
Lucent would fall into this. Luck, I have to check. I'm not so sure about that.
Luck.
Luck and lucky, I'll check.
No, pluck. Pluck a flower.
Ma'am, but वो light में मैम कैसे आएगा? Like luck.
कौन सा? That is what, no? That is why I want to check it. No?
Yeah.
नहीं मैम luck का LUC ही है मैं चेक कर दिया.
ठीक है. So फिर that must be the
Oh,
root.
that is light.
You're thinking about it being a positive sense. Same way you're looking at Lucifer also, no? Someone who emanates light. In that sense, it is being used in that name also, Lucifer.
Ma'am, reluctant.
Reluctant. Reluctant.
Ma'am, unilluminated.
Unilluminated again falls into lumi. Lumi is the root for light, but that is different word. Reluctant, I'll have to check again. It seems like, according to the spelling, it seems like it should be there. Re would stand for again. Luck would stand for light.
Yeah.
And tant would be someone who's related to it. So someone who does not want to throw light on it again. If they're looking at the negative part being tan, but that is the portion we'll have to check. So in that sense, if you think about it, if you break it down like that, it's possible. So I think, yeah. So we have come to the conclusion that luck and lucky come from the same root, loose, and luminous or so all of the words that you're talking about, illuminous, luminous, all of those words are also coming from light, but that is another root for light, lumi. So if you want to write down that root also, you can write that root down, L-U-M-I. That also means light. Okay, and you can write the words as luminous. pellucid.
फिर aluminium में भी तो वही root word use हो रहा है, lumi, but वो light
Aluminum.
related हुआ.
That is again lumi, light. Aluminum would also be using that in that sense only. That
So Miss,
could
how
also be
will
alum,
the
no?
luck will be related to it?
Luck, as you think of it, is when you think about light, light is something bright. Same way as it is being used in the word Lucifer, it is being used in the word luck. So when you think about someone being lucky, you think about them having a luck, like basically a good stroke of fortune, right? The same way you would
Brightness
say
in their
that.
life.
Yeah, so the same way you would think of Lucifer also as you will think of lucky, brightness in their life. Cool. One word is left for this, reluctant. That I will check and I'll get back. Okay.
Ma'am, illuminate for
Illuminate will fall in your Lumi category.
Yeah.
Yes. Light. Yes. That will fall into your Lumi. Sure. I wanted you guys to give me a minute to come to this, but you've already covered most of it. So lumen is a unit measuring light. That is another word that you'll have for lume. Illuminate is to fill with light, which is what Priya just said. And luminous is something emanating light. So all the words which will fall into the category of light would usually be in both of these categories. Is that fine?
Ma'am, voluminous.
Voluminous, yes, that will also be here. But there you're looking at vol also. So you have to think about that. Volition, wala, another word from vol would be volition.
मैम जैसे ल्यूमेन इज यूनिट मेजरिंग लाइट है, वैसे ल्यूसीमीटर इज
For
सेम.
correct. Lucimeter would be for measuring light also. So meter falls for measuring.
Miss, both meaning is light only. LUM also and LUC also.
Correct. Both of these mean light. Lume and loose. That's why I kept them together so that you can remember both of the words together. Someone saying something?
मैम वॉल्यूमिनस में वॉल एक दूसरा रूट वर्ड है क्या?
हाँ जी. It will come together with that meaning. That's why voluminous. Luminaire, luminescent, all of these words will fall into your lume category. So there the root in voluminous is vol and not lume. ठीक है Kishvi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So what is the meaning of emanating?
Emanating means coming from. Something that is giving out, or like basically, yeah. So something emanating light would be something giving out light. Come to the next root, medi. So medi is used in things like medium, in things like medieval. So when you say medieval period, you're talking about the Middle Ages. When you talk about medium, you're talking about something which is in the middle of something. As well as when you talk about different kinds of mediums, now that is also done in. So don't get confused about the two types. And then you're looking at mediocre. So something which is of bad quality or quality lesser than expected. So that's why you say only of medium quality or only of basic quality when you're referring to mediocre. So if someone says your work is mediocre, it means it's not at par with what is expected from you. And that is why this root is being used in this word as well.
It's not up to the mark.
Yes. Mediocre is like, so when you say it's top notch, you mean that it is the best, right? So when you are saying that it is mediocre, you're talking about it being lesser than the top notch, right? So it becoming inferior in that case.
What on medical?
Medical.
Medical.
Medical. Someone just wrote something in the chat that is relevant. Medical will also be coming into this. Chat.
Meditation.
Meditation, yes.
Ma'am, intermediate.
Intermediate as well.
How
Intermediate.
medical
Media.
is like middle? Can you just explain it?
Medical is something that is giving you a break from the disease and like then going forward, right? So medical is breaking that ailment of yours. That is why it is using the middle idea over there. So mediate also is a good word to go with when you think of this, because you're thinking about getting in between two people or getting in between an argument and then solving it. Okay. So other words that you can have are,
Hypermedia.
which one?
Hypermedia.
Hypermedia will also fall into this. Media will also fall into this, because media is again interveners.
Medicine.
Looking at medicine, like medical, would fall into the same category. Same logic. Okay. Mediate, multimedia, mediator, intermediate, and mediate again are all words which will fall into this category of root medi. Medi. Okay. All right, moving on. Next, neg. So most of the places you're using neg, the most common word that you will come across is negative. So when you think about neg as a root, you're using it in the sense that you mean something is not or something is a no over there. So when you say negative, you're saying that it is not true. So when your result of COVID is negative, that is what the meaning is over there, that it is not the disease, like you're not detected with the disease. Other places where you won't be able to identify it that clearly, but it is being used is in renegade or renegade. So when you think about these words, that is basically renegade would be a person or a situation when someone goes back on a promise, and renegade is again to go back on something that was promised or something that was said earlier. So not fulfilling that promise. And when you say negating, that is just the process of saying that that particular thing is not there. So saying it did not happen is negating, or negating the possibility of something. Neglect is also another word which will fall into this category.
Negotiate.
Negotiate would also fall into this, because you're not agreeing to what is there and you're trying to work out another arrangement. So that's why negotiate is another word that will come into this.
Ma'am, deny or nothing?
Deny, no, not deny, because over there
Negligible.
nothing also is different. There you're using the root not only, na? Nothing. Negligible, correct. Negligible will fall into this. It's almost nothing when you think about negligible. Cool. So you guys have covered almost all of the words that fall into neg also. Let's move on to poly. So when we think about poly, now this is one root which is used in things like politics.
Miss, how is negligible related?
Negligible, when you think about igible, that is basically possibility of something. And when you talk about neg, that is no, not there. So when you think of negligible, you're looking at barely any possibility or not a possibility of it. So you're talking about very little being there, or something which is not even of value being there. That's why. Okay. Is that fine?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Come to poly. Now, when we think about the root poly, over here, two words that I've mentioned. Number one is metropolis. Number two is politics. And politician also falls into the same category. So politics is basically actions of a government or a political party which is affecting a city majorly. So when you think about politics, we think about the idea of a city, or we think about an idea of a place where people are living. So from poly, we are thinking more towards the idea of a space where people are living more than a city. So metropolis, when you think about, over here, you're using the root poly to introduce this idea of a large city, metro standing for this large or popularized or populated place. So metropolis becomes a large city with a large population.
Miss Polygrain.
Poly, what is the spelling of that?
Oh no, it will be POLY. Sorry.
Poly is multiple. That one is multiple. Okay. So POLY would be, huh?
Police.
Police. Yeah, police would fall into this.
Ma'am, trampoline.
Miss, how it will be related? Police, like.
Police, because that is the city's force, right? Police. So it's like governing that particular
Poly
area.
is, I think, a location would be a better place instead of a city. An
Yeah,
area.
you can think of, yeah. City is just a
Metropolis
general term you're thinking about. So what I said is a large space where a lot of people are living is what you should be thinking about when you think of poly. Okay.
Miss Policy.
Policy is correct. Yes. Craniopolis. Which one?
Polite.
Trampoline.
Polite, I'm not so sure about. Polite. Even though the spelling is there, I think the root might be different. Trampoline also, I'm not so sure.
Miss Polite.
Polite, I don't think so. I will have to check polite. So I'll check polite when I'm checking reluctant. Okay. Trampoline, I don't think that is the root over there. Trampoline, you're using tramp and line as the root, and this is not the root used there. Okay.
And Miss, how is policy been related?
Policy is governing a place's regulations, right? What is a policy? A policy is something that is looking at a place's regulation or a city's regulation or a space's regulation. So over there, you're not using it in direct sense of a city. You're using it in sense of a governance of an area, a limited area. So over there, like policy of an institute is this, policy of this school is this, etc., etc. And that is why policy would be falling into that. Okay.
Ma'am, cosmopolitan.
Cosmopolitan will definitely be
Geopolitical.
Geopolitical would also be here. Geopolitical, cosmopolitan are words for this. Cosmopolitan, what is the meaning? Considering the world as the city, basically. So you're looking at like cosmopolitan, taking in the idea of everything, so universal more like. Impolitic would also fall into this. Im being the negative root, politic being the positive part. Come to the next root, rupt. So when you look at something like rupture, this is the root being used over there. So rupt, like interrupt, would be speaking in between. So someone is talking about something, then you interrupt. That is why inter is in between, right? And rupt is break. So break the flow of what is happening at that time. So break that conversation, to disturb the conversation. And that is how interrupt is being looked at. Then you think about something like bankrupt. So breaking the bank, basically, when you're looking at. So when you say someone has gone bankrupt, that means like they cannot afford anything and they are broke. That's why bankrupt would be also another word from this root. And finally, what do we say? Erupt. Erupt is also
Corrupt
correct.
and eruption.
Corrupt and eruption. Eruption, erupt,
Disrupt.
eruption, disrupt as well. Again, you're looking at negative root, disrupt. What else?
Abruptly.
Abrupt. Yeah. Abrupt will also come. So sudden break is abrupt.
Rupture.
Rupture, yes. Rupture is a break in something, simply, right? So rupture. Interrupt is correct. Erupt would be E-R-U-P-T though.
Miss corrupt.
Corrupt is correct.
Erupt.
Erupt is correct. Erupt will also be there. Okay. So these are the roots that I wanted to cover so far. Now I would like you to explore on your own also. If you want me to help out in any way, please let me know. Now, moving on, let's discuss some one-word substitution that we can look at according to the root words. Some of these you must have already done, so don't be impatient, just go through them and try to revise them, no problem. If there are some new words, please make sure to write them down. If there are no new words, then just revise. Okay, let's go. So first off, we're thinking about learning words according to their roots and then trying to remember them. So first that I've made over here are some places. So here we are looking at first one, falling in the category of apiary. Is there any other word when
Yes.
you're looking at AP?
Apiculture.
Apiculture, correct. So apiculture is what? Cultivation of?
Bees.
Cultivation of bees. So when you think about apiary, apiary stands for a place where bees are kept. Right? So now come to the next one, aviary. Have you heard of ava or av root being used anywhere else?
Aviation.
Aviation.
Correct. Aviation or aviators. There you're thinking about the idea of flying or birds over there. So when you think about the idea of flying associated with it, what is that flies usually in animal kingdom?
Birds.
Birds. So aviary stands for a place where you're keeping the birds. So any space, a big cage or any huge space where you're keeping the birds would be called an aviary. Now come to the next root, abattoir. Sorry, the next word, abattoir. I've given over here the root so that you can write it exactly in the same spelling also. So abattoir is the root that you're looking at, which means to beat down or to knock down. And when you think about this usage in this particular sense, then you're looking at different words also using this root, like abate, which you would find in your antonyms and synonyms first page, you will be able to find this. Then the root oir is a suffix that is, or a prefix sometimes, which will be used in sense of you're going for a place or describing a space. So when you talk about abattoir, then it is a space where you're beating down or killing animals. So butcher house is what you will be thinking about when you're thinking of abattoir. So your one word substitution would be where you're killing animals for
Butchered.
Yeah, so animals are being butchered. That is an abattoir. Now coming to laboratory. So when you think about laboratory, you're using the spelling LABOR, but what you mean is labor, LABOUR, which is working. So the act of working or people working is what labor is. So when you're using it with tori or ori, then you're looking at a space where labor is being done, where work is being done. So that is why you will be thinking about laboratory, about a space where work is being done. Same way, dorm is so in dormitory, you're looking at the root dorm, which means to sleep. So whenever you think about dormitory, that is a space where there are multiple beds for people to sleep in. Now come to inventory. The idea might not be very much clear when you think about it first time, because when we think about the idea of invent, we think about the idea of making something. We think about the idea of like coming up with something new. But invent also falls into the category of discovery, or also falls into the category of coming across something. So when we think about invent in that particular sense, and we think of the literal meaning of the root inventors, then we will be thinking about it in this sense. When we think of inventory of a space or inventory of a business, then you're looking at a space where you are looking at all of the items that the business is using, all of the things that the business uses for its daily work. That's why inventory is a detailed list of articles, goods, etc. in a particular space.
Yes.
Can it be like a place where things been discovered?
That would be more like a laboratory, because you're doing some observations and everything. So that would be the place where things are being discovered. So why you're using like the inventory in the sense of discover is because of the root inventors. The usage of the root is not direct in inventory. That's the only thing. Okay. So the possibility is very, very low. But you will more think about inventory as a place, as in like an exhaustive list of the things that a business has or a space has.
हम sort of stock बोल सकते हैं क्या?
हाँ, बोल सकते हो, but that would be another definition. So don't confuse it.
Yeah. Okay.
जहाँ पे आपका सारा स्टॉक रखा है, that could be called as inventory, but inventory में आपका बाकी चीजें भी आए.
Okay.
Come to this route. Now this is one of the easiest routes, and we come across it all the time, and I'm pretty sure that most of you have covered this. So let's quickly go through all of the meanings. Just tell me the meanings of these and we will quickly be done with it. Theocracy, what is the meaning of that?
Government run by religious people.
Correct. So usually the
Theory
Pope,
related
because
to
the
God,
Pope is the
religion.
head of religion, usually like church. So you're looking at, depending on whichever religion you're talking about, if the head of the religion is running the government, or people who are coming together from the religious community and heading that government, that would be theocracy. So a government by the God's men, or the government by the Pope also would be theocracy. Can you tell me a country where this is right now?
Rome.
Afghanistan? No, but that would be different.
That is dicey. That is dicey. Okay, Vatican City, because the Pope is the head of the government over there. Okay.
It used to be there in Tibet also, but China took over. No.
Correct, correct. So over there also you had theocracy. Now come to next one, atheist. Who's
A
an
person
atheist?
who disbelieves in the
Does not
existence of
believe
God.
in God.
Does not believe in God.
Correct. So atheist would be a person who does not believe in God. Okay, a non-believer. Theist,
Someone who
believes in
believes in God.
believer of God. Theology,
Study of
correct. Study of religion or study of God would be theology. Theism,
It's confusing.
Theist is a one who believes in theism, who believes in the idea of religion. Correct.
Follower, maybe.
Theism is basically someone who believes in the idea of God or in the idea of religion. Okay. Monotheism.
That there is only one God.
Correct. Monotheism
One
is believes
religion.
that there is only one God, one religion. Polytheism.
Many.
Opposite of
Many God believes in many.
Correct.
Many God.
And what is pantheism?
All of
All gods. Who believes in all gods.
Universe.
all religion.
No, it's like all
So there are
gods.
two meanings for pantheism. Number one is your meaning that you said, that someone who believes in all gods or is okay with the idea of all different gods. And the second one is believe that what just happened? Someone who believes
That universe is the God.
correct, that one. Idea that universe is God. That. Okay, both of them apply.
That is
Universe as a God or universe as the religion. That is pantheism. P-A-N. Pan. Pan is the root that we use for all. Or overall, right?
Yes.
Now come to this idea, apostate. So apostate, root over here is apo, which means off or away. If you look at words like apostrophe, there also you're using the same root. Hence, when you look at the word apostate, that means a person who abandons their religion or who abandons their belief. Because apo means away or apart, and sta, which stands for the stand or be firm, is not there. So they are not someone who is standing for their belief. That's why apostate. Is that fine? Here are other words from apo. These are not that much required when it comes to the one word substitution, but I've mentioned it so that you remember other words that might be there. Apogamy, apogee, apocope, apostasy, apology. So apology also is another word that will come from here because you're looking at apo and logy. We talked about it, I think, in our root words before, this particular root.
Yes.
It's just a quick revision. I'll be sharing this presentation later on, so don't worry about it. But do take down if any new word is being mentioned over here.
Yep.
Apostate is the same thing that we discussed just now, renunciation of religious beliefs. Apostate, right? So here, apostasy. Next one. Pantheism. Over here, I've given both the meanings. If anybody wants to take it down in exact words, they can take it down. A doctrine which identifies God with the universe. So they're considering universe as the God. And the second meaning is also there, worship or tolerance of many gods. So if any of them come in the exam, you can go with the meaning pantheism or the word pantheism. Don't be confused.
Ma'am, what if both comes?
Both won't come. If they come, then they have given a wrong question. Go with like A then. A doctrine which identifies God with universe. Go with that one then. Okay.
And what
Because
does that mean? Like the worship or tolerance of many gods?
that means like if someone else believes in another God, then you'll be like, okay, that is fine. We can believe in it like that. That I also believe in it like that.
Okay.
So how, like sometimes when we talk about religion, some people will be like, no, my religion is the best.
Yeah.
Like no other religion can be recognized, right? Now that is not pantheism. That is monotheism, believing in only one type of God.
Okay.
Come to the next one. We are talking about government. Over here, I've mentioned some new ones. So I'm pretty sure not all of them are covered by you. So if there is anything new, please write it down. If there is like nothing new, then you don't need to write it down. And now I require you guys to answer for these things that you must have learned for the test also. Kakistocracy.
Government by worst people.
Worst people, bad people. Kaki is the root, which means bad people. So that's why we are using kakistocracy as the meaning, being a government by the worst or the bad people. Ochlocracy.
Governed by a group of people.
Group of people, more people.
Government by populace.
Yes. Government by popular
people.
Popular people. A group of few people, but popular people. Ochlocracy. Plutocracy.
Government by the wealthy people.
Governed by wealthy people. Gynecocracy.
Government by female.
Correct. Government by females. Thalassocracy, I've given the meaning over here because it's a new one. So thalassocracy or thalatocracy, when you talk about, is basically a government which has dominion over huge parts of the sea. So that is what thalassocracy is. Okay. Can you tell me any example of a thalassocrat country? If you can't, then homework, okay? Please write it down. You have to figure out a thalassocrat country. Now, mobocracy. What is mobocracy?
Government by mass people.
One people.
One.
Mass.
No, ma'am.
Mass, no?
Mass, but bad, no? Mobocracy is.
Mob,
Like domination.
Mobocracy is very close to anarchy. Mobocracy is when people or mob takes over and they just like overthrow the government that is over there, and then they just start doing whatever they want. So mobocracy would be government by the mob, MOB. And when you look at mob, that is like unorganized mass of people. Okay. Slavocracy. Now, slavocracy is no more